Marcus wiped the sweat from his brow as he rushed through the daycare doors, 15 minutes late for pickup. Again. The receptionist's tight smile told him everything he needed to know before she even spoke. "Mr. Johnson, this is the third time this week." Behind her desk stood Veronica Hayes, the center director, arms crossed and judgment etched across her face. What happened next would change both their lives forever, but not in the way either of them expected. If you're moved by stories of resilience, prejudice, and unexpected redemption, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful real-life stories that will touch your heart and challenge your perspectives. Marcus Johnson never planned on raising his 5-year-old daughter Zoe alone. At 32, he had imagined a different life, one with his wife Shanice by his side as they watched their little girl grow. But cancer had other plans, stealing Shanice when Zoe was just 2, leaving Marcus to navigate the complicated world of single parenthood while grieving the love of his life. "Daddy, you're late again," Zoe said, her small face a mixture of relief and disappointment as she clutched her favorite stuffed elephant. The toy was the last birthday gift Shanice had given her before passing, a connection to a mother she barely remembered. "I know, baby girl. I'm sorry. Work ran long." Marcus knelt down, pulling his daughter into a tight hug, breathing in the scent of her hair, coconut oil and the faint smell of finger paint. These moments kept him going through the hardest days. "Mr. Johnson, may I have a word?" Veronica's voice cut through their reunion, her tone clipped and professional, but with an undercurrent Marcus had grown familiar with over the past year: disapproval. "Of course. Zoe, can you wait by the door for a minute? Color something pretty for the fridge?" Marcus watched his daughter skip to the small table in the corner before turning to face Veronica. At 38, Veronica Hayes ran Little Sprouts Daycare Center with military precision. Her perfectly pressed clothes and immaculate appearance stood in stark contrast to Marcus's rumpled shirt and loosened tie. She'd built the center from nothing into one of the most sought-after childcare facilities in the city, priding herself on structure, discipline, and excellence. "This is becoming a pattern, Mr. Johnson. Our closing policy is very clear. Late pickups disrupt our staff schedules and create unnecessary complications." Her eyes flicked to Zoe and then back to Marcus. "Perhaps you should consider whether your current arrangements are appropriate for your situation." Marcus felt the familiar heat rise in his chest, a mixture of shame, frustration, and anger he'd become accustomed to since becoming a single father. "My situation? Your work schedule seems incompatible with single parenthood. Perhaps extended care or a more flexible facility would better suit your circumstances." The pause before circumstances spoke volumes. "My circumstances are that I'm doing my best," Marcus replied, keeping his voice low so Zoe wouldn't hear. "I'm sorry about being late. It won't happen again." Veronica's perfectly arched eyebrow conveyed her disbelief. "We've heard that before, haven't we? 3 times this week alone." What Veronica didn't know, what Marcus couldn't bring himself to explain, was that his late arrival stemmed from his desperate attempts to prove himself at Horizon Architectural Design, where he'd recently been promoted to senior project manager. The promotion meant longer hours but also better pay and benefits for Zoe. Every minute he spent at work was an investment in his daughter's future. "The late fees will be added to your monthly statement," Veronica continued, her voice softening slightly as she glanced at Zoe. "She's a wonderful child, Mr. Johnson. Very bright. She deserves stability." The implication stung worse than any direct insult. Marcus simply nodded, took Zoe's hand, and left, the weight of Veronica's judgment following him out the door. That night, after tucking Zoe into bed with a story about brave princesses who saved themselves, Marcus sat at his kitchen table surrounded by architectural drawings. The Westfield Commercial Plaza project was his first major assignment as senior project manager, and he couldn't afford to fail. Not with so many eyes watching the black man who'd risen through the ranks faster than expected. His phone buzzed with a text from his boss, Richard Keller: "Need the revised plans by tomorrow morning. Early meeting with clients." Crucial we nail this. Marcus glanced at the clock, 11:37 p.m. He'd be lucky to get 4 hours of sleep, but what choice did he have? He took a long sip of cold coffee and bent over his work again. The next morning was a blur of rushed breakfast, Zoe's complaints about her hair not being done like mommy used to, and traffic that seemed determined to make him late for both daycare drop-off and his crucial meeting. "Remember, Daddy will try super hard to be on time today," Marcus promised as he kissed Zoe goodbye at Little Sprouts. "You always say that," Zoe replied with the brutal honesty only children possess. Veronica, overseeing the morning drop-off routine, didn't bother hiding her disapproving glance as Marcus rushed out. The Westfield presentation went better than expected. Richard seemed pleased, and the clients were enthusiastic about Marcus's innovative approach to the space. As the meeting concluded, Richard asked Marcus to stay behind. "Johnson, excellent work today. You've got a real eye for this." Richard, a tall man with salt and pepper hair and the confident demeanor of someone who'd never questioned his place in the world, leaned against the conference table. "The client specifically mentioned your urban renewal concepts. They're impressed." "Thank you, sir. I appreciate the opportunity. How are things otherwise? You seem stretched thin lately." Marcus hesitated. In his experience, personal problems and professional advancement rarely mixed well. "I'm managing, sir." "Managing isn't thriving, Marcus." Richard's use of his first name signaled a shift in the conversation. "Is it Zoe? Childcare issues?" The direct question caught Marcus off guard. "Sometimes it's challenging to balance everything. The daycare director isn't particularly understanding about the demands of my position." Richard nodded thoughtfully. "I remember those days. When my kids were young, my wife handled most of it, but even with 2 parents, it was a circus." He paused. "You know, we value your contributions here, Marcus. I'd hate to see you burn out trying to be superhuman." "I appreciate that, sir, but I can handle it." "I'm sure you can. But you don't have to handle it alone." Richard straightened. "Take the afternoon. Go pick up your daughter on time today. The Westfield revisions can wait until tomorrow." "Sir, I couldn't." "That's an order, Johnson. Work-life balance isn't just a corporate buzzword around here. It's how we keep our best talent." Richard's tone was firm but kind. "Go be a dad. The buildings will still be here tomorrow." Marcus felt a weight lift from his shoulders as he left the office early that afternoon. For once, he'd be at Little Sprouts well before closing time. Maybe he could even take Zoe to the park before dinner, something they hadn't done in weeks. He arrived at the daycare center 45 minutes before pickup time, earning surprised looks from the staff. As he waited in the reception area for Zoe's class to finish their afternoon activities, he overheard voices from Veronica's office, the door slightly ajar. "I just don't understand why some people have children they can't properly care for," Veronica was saying, her voice carrying clearly. "That Johnson man is never on time, always rushing, his daughter's hair barely done most mornings." "He's a single dad, Veronica," another voice. Marcus recognized it as Miss Tanya, Zoe's favorite teacher. "And he seems to be trying his best." "Trying isn't enough when it comes to children. That little girl deserves better than a father who can't manage to show up on time. And you've seen how the other parents look when he's rushing in at the last minute. It reflects poorly on our establishment. I think you're being a bit harsh. He lost his wife, Anne. Plenty of single parents manage without constant disruptions. Perhaps some people just aren't cut out for parenthood. Especially men who think they can do it all alone." Marcus felt his hands clench into fists. The casual cruelty of her words struck deep, touching on insecurities that kept him awake at night. Was he enough for Zoe? Would she grow up damaged because she didn't have a mother? Was he failing his daughter and the memory of his wife by struggling to balance everything? Before he could decide whether to confront Veronica or simply walk away, Zoe's class filed into the main room, his daughter's face lighting up when she spotted him. "Daddy! You're early." She ran to him, her braids bouncing, the elephant clutched in her hand as always. Marcus scooped her up, his anger temporarily forgotten as he held his world in his arms. "I sure am, baby girl. I thought we might go to the park before dinner. How does that sound? Can we get ice cream too?" "Don't push your luck," he laughed, but they both knew ice cream was definitely happening. As they gathered Zoe's things, Veronica emerged from her office, stopping short when she saw Marcus. A flash of something, embarrassment, perhaps, crossed her face before her professional mask slipped back into place. "Mr. Johnson. This is unexpected." "I got off work early today," he replied, his voice deliberately neutral despite the anger still simmering beneath the surface. "Thought I'd surprise Zoe." "How nice." Veronica's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Zoe, did you show your father the painting you did today?" "It's in my cubby." Zoe wiggled down from Marcus's arms and ran to retrieve her artwork. Left alone momentarily, Marcus and Veronica stood in uncomfortable silence. "Mr. Johnson, about our conversation yesterday. I heard what you said in your office just now, Ms. Hayes." Marcus kept his voice low but firm. "About me not being cut out for parenthood. About Zoe deserving better." Veronica's face flushed. You misunderstood. I was speaking generally about." "No, you weren't. But it's fine. You're entitled to your opinion." Marcus straightened his shoulders. "What you're not entitled to is judging me or my daughter based on your narrow view of what parenthood should look like. I run a professional establishment with rules and expectations. And I'm raising a child alone while building a career to support her. Neither of us is perfect, but only one of us is standing in judgment of the other." Zoe returned, proudly holding up a watercolor painting of what appeared to be two figures, one tall, one small, standing beside a house with an impossibly large sun overhead. "Look, Daddy. It's us and our house." Marcus knelt down, examining the painting with exaggerated interest. "This is amazing, Zoe. Definitely going on the fridge." He glanced up at Veronica. "My daughter is loved, Ms. Hayes. She's safe, she's happy, and she knows her daddy would move mountains for her. That's what matters." Taking Zoe's hand, Marcus walked out of Little Sprouts, leaving Veronica standing speechless in the reception area. The next few weeks brought a subtle shift in Marcus's work-life balance. Richard had connected him with the company's flexible work program, allowing him to start earlier and leave in time for daycare pickup 3 days a week, with remote work options for emergencies. The Westfield project continued to progress well, with Marcus's innovative designs earning praise from both clients and colleagues. At Little Sprouts, however, the atmosphere remained tense. Veronica maintained a cool professionalism around Marcus, but he noticed she now avoided direct interaction whenever possible, delegating communications to other staff members. He considered finding another daycare center, but Zoe loved her teachers and friends, and disrupting her routine seemed unfair when she'd already lost so much. One Tuesday afternoon, Marcus arrived at Little Sprouts to find unusual activity, parents gathering in the main room, chairs arranged in rows, a small stage set up at the front. He'd completely forgotten about the spring showcase, where each class performed songs and presented their art projects for the parents. "Daddy! You came!" Zoe ran to him, wearing a paper flower crown and a dress Marcus didn't recognize. "Of course I came, baby girl. I wouldn't miss your big show." He looked at her outfit in confusion. "Where did you get that pretty dress?" "Miss Tanya brought it for me. She said I needed something special for the show, and you probably didn't have time to get anything." Zoe twirled, showing off the simple but pretty yellow dress. "Isn't it beautiful?" Marcus felt the familiar pang of inadequacy. He'd missed the note about costumes for the showcase, another parenting fail to add to his growing list. "You look perfect," he assured her, making a mental note to thank Miss Tanya and reimburse her for the dress. As parents found seats, Marcus noticed Richard Keller entering the daycare center, looking somewhat out of place in his expensive suit among the casual parent attire. Their eyes met, and Richard made his way over. "Johnson. Hope you don't mind me crashing the party. My granddaughter Lily is in the butterfly class here." "I had no idea Zoe attended Little Sprouts too." "Small world," Marcus replied, genuinely surprised. "Zoe's in the butterfly class as well. She's never mentioned a Lily. Lily just started last month. My daughter and son-in-law moved to the area recently." Richard looked around the room. Quality place. Though the director seems a bit intense. Marcus followed Richard's gaze to where Veronica stood directing staff with precise instructions, her clipboard clutched tightly against her chest. That's one word for her. The showcase began with the youngest children singing a somewhat chaotic but endearing rendition of "You Are My Sunshine." Parents applauded enthusiastically, phones raised to capture the moment. When the butterfly class took the stage, Marcus felt his chest swell with pride as Zoe stood front and center, confidently reciting her line about how butterflies transform from caterpillars. After the performances, as parents mingled and enjoyed refreshments, Marcus introduced Zoe to Richard properly. "So you're the famous Zoe I've heard so much about," Richard said, crouching down to her level. "Your dad talks about you all the time at work." "He does?" Zoe looked pleased. "Absolutely. He says you're the smartest, bravest girl in the whole world." "That's because I am," Zoe replied with complete confidence, making both men laugh. "Mr. Keller, I didn't realize you were connected to Little Sprouts." Veronica had appeared beside them, her professional smile firmly in place. "It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Veronica Hayes, the center director." "Richard Keller. My granddaughter Lily started in the butterfly class recently." Richard shook her hand. "Impressive showcase. The children clearly adore their teachers." "We pride ourselves on excellence," Veronica replied, beaming at the compliment. "Our staff is dedicated to providing the highest quality care and early education." "I can see that. Marcus here speaks highly of your program as well. His daughter seems to be thriving." Veronica's smile faltered slightly at the mention of Marcus. "Mr. Johnson's daughter is indeed a delight. Though I'm sure he'd agree that consistent routines are essential for children's development." The subtle dig wasn't lost on Marcus, but before he could respond, Richard placed a hand on his shoulder. "Johnson is one of our most valuable team members at Horizon. His ability to balance single parenthood with the demands of senior management is nothing short of remarkable. In fact, we're announcing his promotion to design director next week, but I suppose the cat's out of the bag now." Marcus turned to Richard in shock. This was the first he'd heard of any promotion. "Promotion?" he managed to ask. "The board approved it yesterday. I was going to tell you tomorrow, but seeing you here with this amazing young lady," Richard smiled at Zoe, who was listening with interest, "it seems appropriate to share the good news now." "You've earned it, Marcus." Veronica's expression cycled through surprise, confusion, and finally a forced smile. "Congratulations, Mr. Johnson. That's quite an achievement." "Thank you," Marcus replied, still processing the unexpected news. "It means a lot to have my work recognized." "Daddy, does this mean we get ice cream to celebrate?" Zoe tugged at his hand. "I think this definitely calls for ice cream," Marcus laughed. "Ice cream sounds perfect," Richard agreed. "In fact, why don't we all go? Ms. Hayes, would you care to join us? I'd love to hear more about Little Sprouts' educational philosophy." Caught off guard by the invitation, Veronica hesitated. "That's very kind, but I should stay to oversee cleanup and—" "Surely your capable staff can handle that," Richard insisted. "I'm particularly interested in how you accommodate working parents."